In this video, you'll learn how to write a lead or an introductory paragraph for an argumentative essay. There are three parts to your introductory paragraph: your hook, context, and a foreshadowing of your argument. Think it with me: hook, context, foreshadowing of your argument. Okay, so throughout this video, as well as the other videos where we teach you how to write the different parts of your argumentative essay, we're not going to use the same prompt as you. We didn't want to give you too many clues. So instead of writing about how our own democracy fails to be fair and equitable, we're going to be writing about ancient Athens and how ancient Athenian democracy failed to be fair and equitable. So our central claim or argument, our big umbrella statement, is this: many in ancient Athens were denied a voice and therefore did not have equal rights in society. Our three supporting arguments that are going to fit underneath that big umbrella statement are: individuals in Athenian society did not have equal voting rights, metics and slaves were treated unfairly and had few rights, and Athenian women faced many inequalities in their day-to-day life. So let's get started writing our introductory paragraph. We're going to start with our hook. A good hook sentence says, drop everything you're doing and read me right now, without actually coming out and just saying that. Don't you dare write that as your hook. When I'm talking about a hook, I'm talking about that juicy string of words that makes up the first couple of sentences of your essay. These are the words that grab your reader's attention and don't let go. There are some obvious winners. There are some obvious ways to start your essay that work. You've probably learned these or tried these before. Maybe starting with a startling statistic. Somebody important said it, or a quote, or a rhetorical question. There are also some less obvious winners, however, that I would encourage you to try on. Painting a picture or setting a scene, I think, is really fantastic way to start your essay, and really grabs the reader's attention and helps them understand kind of where you're going. Also, starting with humor can be a great way. If you like playing with humor, maybe play with that in your hook. I'm going to try on two different hooks, and I encourage you to try on a couple different hooks as well. I'm going to use painting a picture or setting a scene, as well as somebody important said it. So my first one, I'm going to start with somebody important said it, as well as I'm kind of painting a picture. After a particularly bloody victory during the Peloponnesian War, Pericles, one of ancient Athens' most beloved leaders, shouted, "Our form of government is called a democracy because its administration is in the hands not of a few, but of the whole people." Overwhelmed with pride in their country and the victory they'd won, Pericles' words were repeated and repeated and repeated. I hope I've grabbed your attention. My second one is going to use painting a picture or setting a scene as well. However, I'm setting more of the historical scene here. Ancient Athens is known as the birthplace of democracy. City-states in ancient Athens had historically been governed by one or a small group of rulers. So when democracy came onto the scene, it was a big deal. It's kind of playful. I'm painting a picture or setting the historical scene for the reader, and hopefully that juicy string of words has grabbed your attention. So next, I need to provide the context. That might be the historical context, or why this argument is important right now in our time. The context is going to really help the reader understand the backstory or the larger political or social context. So here are some examples. This is for my first one where I started with my Pericles quote, so I'm going to come back to that Pericles quote here. "This statement has defined how we understand democracy in ancient Athens today." That's the Pericles quote, so let me read that part. Our form of government is called a democracy because its administration is in the hands not of a few, but of the whole people. This statement has defined how we understand democracy in ancient Athens today. Yet, was it true? Was power in ancient Athens really in the hands of the whole people? Although democracy in ancient Athens gave more people a voice, it denied the majority the right to be a part of decision-making. Okay, so I'm providing a little bit of the historical context. You are not going to provide historical context. You're going to provide current context. So what is happening in our society today? Give me the big picture of what's happening that your argument is going to fit within. Here's another example. Democracy was advertised as putting the power back in the hands of the people. Although it's true that democracy in Athens gave more people a voice in governing, it failed to put the power in the hands of all people. Context is really important because it really helps the reader understand what's happening behind the scenes, and is going to help them understand some of the background information that they need to make sure that they are able to follow your argument. Okay, the most important part of your introductory paragraph is going to be the foreshadowing of your argument. This is where you outline your central claim or argument and your 3 supporting claims. So here are my 2. In fact, power in ancient Athens was in the hands of the few. So that's my big central claim. That's my umbrella statement. Here's my outlining of my supporting arguments. Inequality was visible in voting rights and the treatment of medics and slaves and women. So those are my 3 supporting arguments: voting rights, treatment of medics and slaves, and women. Here's another example. Many in ancient Athens were denied a voice and therefore did not have equal rights in society. Inequality was visible in voting rights and treatment of medics, slaves, and women. After reading my central claim or argument, as well as my outline of my 3 supporting claims, you as a reader know exactly where I'm going. I should be able to read your final sentence or final 2 sentences of your introductory paragraph and know exactly what your 3 body paragraphs are going to be about. So let's look at my one of my introductory paragraphs as a whole. So my hook. After a particularly bloody victory during the Peloponnesian War, Pericles, one of ancient Athens' most beloved leaders, shouted, "Our form of government is called a democracy because its administration is in the hands not of a few, but of the whole people." Overwhelmed with pride in their country and the victory they'd won, Pericles' words were repeated and repeated and repeated. This statement has defined how we understand democracy in ancient Athens today. Yet was it true? Was power in ancient Athens really in the hands of the whole people? Although democracy in ancient Athens gave more people a voice, it denied the majority the right to be a part of decision-making. In fact, power in ancient Athens was in the hands of a few. Inequality was visible in voting rights and the treatments of medics, slaves, and women. Okay, there are a ton of resources on Schoology. Go get started writing your introductory paragraph.